Today we're going to talk about viruses. Viruses cannot reproduce on their own, and therefore they must invade a host in order to produce more viruses. Viruses aren't considered to be alive because they don't have a lot of the characteristics of living things that we talked about earlier in the semester. Viruses are going to take advantage of your body's ability to undergo mitosis, and it does this in two different ways. We've got the lytic cycle and we've got the lysogenic cycle. The lytic cycle is what many viruses go through in order to take over your cells' ability to do mitosis and reproduce. This is your common cold, the flu, things that once they invade your body, you're going to feel the effects pretty quickly. So this is what's happening here. We have a couple different stages. We've got attachment, entry, replication, assembly, and release. So what's happening in attachment is the virus has these little keys on the end of it, and they match certain cells. So if it's a virus that's going to invade a throat cell, for example, when that virus lands on a throat cell, it has the keys on the little receptors on the end of it that match that throat cell, and the throat cell is tricked into letting it in. It's like if someone had the key to your house, and they said, I have the key to your house. Your parents gave it to me. If they legit have that key, you're a little more willing to understand. You're a little more willing to accept what they're saying. So this virus has the key to the cell, and the cell lets it in. Once the virus has been let in to the virus says to the cell, basically, take me to your nucleus. I want to speak to, take me to your leader, basically. So the virus goes to the nucleus, and we start what's happening. We go into step 3, which is replication, and the viral DNA here takes over part of the cell's DNA. So it's basically saying, you have some great DNA there, but instead of making that product with that DNA, how about we use my DNA, which is much better, and you can use that. And our cells are like, that sounds like a great idea. I agree. Let's do that. So the virus really takes over the DNA there. So as you guys know already from past chapters, what's going to happen to this DNA is it's going to be transcribed into RNA. The RNA is going to go out to the ribosome, okay, and we're going to, start making viruses. So the next step is assembly. So the DNA will start making, little viruses inside of the cell, and this is going to be happening at the, at the ribosomes. So we're making all these little viruses, and then eventually the cell becomes so full of these viruses that the cell bursts, and all the viruses get let out into your body, which then repeat this process over and over and over again until your immune system catches on to what's happening and starts sending out, your white blood cells to suck up all these viruses and get rid of them. So basically, viruses act as con artists that trick your cells into thinking that they actually belong there. It's pretty crazy. Other viruses like COVID and Ebola and rabies, they go through what's called the Lysogenic Cycle. Remember, it's the longer name, so it's the longer cycle. In the Lysogenic Cycle, attachment, entry, and replication all happen the same way. So the cell has the keys, it gets let in, it's taken to the nucleus, it's the con artist. But here in replication, we start to get a little different. And what's happening here, instead of taking over the DNA, the viral DNA becomes part of the DNA. So here it actually becomes part of it. And at this point in the cycle, everything pauses. And it pauses because we don't really know. There's some sort of environmental factor that we're waiting on. And what's happening here is as we're pausing, the cell continues its life. So it's going to replicate this DNA, and it's going to make a new cell with this same DNA. Okay, so now we're going through the cell cycle, and we're making more cells that have viral DNA. So we could end up having like hundreds or thousands of cells in our bodies that are just chilling there with viral DNA until one day something happens, and scientists don't really know what that something is, but some environmental switch flips on, and then all of a sudden, all of these viruses switch and they go into the lytic cycle, and they pick up here with assembly and release. So all of these all these cells now with the viral DNA, they start assembling at the same time, and then they all start releasing. So before, with the lytic cycle, it was kind of like a cell fills up with viruses and it pops, and then another cell fills up with a virus and it pops, and another cell fills up with viruses and it pops. But with the with the lysogenic cycle, it's like all of these cells are waiting, and then all at once they go into assembly, and all at once they're bursting. So it's like a minefield. It's like boom, 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 boom. And this is why these viruses that go through the lysogenic cycle are so much more, not deadly, but more severe with their symptoms. It's like you're fine, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're super sick. And that's because all these cells are bursting with viruses at once, and it just gets really crazy. I have a video here to show us dealing with a viral invasion.
So let's say that this guy has the flu, could be any flu, and here's a droplet from his sneeze containing, if you move in and take a really close look, you see each one of those little purple things is a virus. And there are a lot of viruses floating through the air, some of which go inevitably up this unfortunate man's nose.
How did that guy feel when you ripped off half of his face?
It was interesting because we did it while he was sleeping.
Okay, I am talking with medical illustrator David Belinsky, who designed this video for Xyrus, a research company. So here comes the virus, and it's going to land on one of this guy's throat cells. So notice it's covered with little yellow knobby things that you call these keys, right?
Those are the keys.
Yeah, this is the key, this is the key, this is the key.
Okay, if the keys on this virus happen to fit the locks, which are those little purpley stick-uppy things on the surface of the cell, if there is a match, the cell, watch this, welcomes the virus in. And what's this?
This is the welcoming committee. They all interlock with each other, and they pull this membrane down into the cell.
And down it goes deeper and deeper, and that welcoming structure disperses, and the virus capsule bursts, and out comes the secret recipe for how to make more viruses in those little noodly things. So this unsuspecting cell has been tricked into guiding these virus recipes right into its own command center, the nucleus. So in they go.
And they are immediately recognized by this big pink molecule, which is a mini factory.
Yeah, what is it doing?
It threads the nuclear material, the instruction code of the virus, through one hole, and out another hole comes a brand new instruction set.
So it's a copying machine making copy after copy after copy of virus recipes, which then go out of the nucleus to little chefs, those blue peanutty things. They cook up proteins that go back into the nucleus where they are reassembled into baby viruses, and then out they go. They get covered up and head to the surface where they get new keys, and then boom, here they come. This is an eruption of virus after virus after virus after only one virus entered the cell. But how many came out? Well, millions. Millions. So if one virus can produce 1 million babies and do it again and again and again, how come this guy doesn't just drop dead, I don't know, in like 10 minutes?
Well, because you have about 100 trillion cells.
I see. So 1 million viruses is just a drop in the bucket when you have 100 trillion cells. But anyway, remember, you do have your own immune system, which when it sees a virus usually kills it. So while the virus does multiply fast, with any luck your immune system will work just a little faster. So yes, viruses, all viruses want to spread, that's what they do, but most of the time we do keep them in check. most of the time.
And that's it, guys. That's it for viruses. Let me know if you have any questions. Please email me or, talk to me when you can.